I think it's been a very long time since a filmmaker and I were on the exact same wavelength while experiencing a film. But when it happens, there is truly no greater joy in the world. And that's why when I was watching Tenet, I couldn't help but feel that this movie was tailor-made for me. My thoughts on the latest Christopher Nolan film, coming up.
Did you rub my lamp?
1,000 generations living in now.
Here we go.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? And welcome to FilmSpeak, where the conversation continues after the credits, and that's definitely going to be happening here with Tenet. If this is our first time meeting, hey, my name is Griffin. I'm an LA-based entertainment journalist and film critic, and if you want to be a part of that conversation, consider subscribing to the channel for more insight, analysis, and interviews behind your favorite movies. So I read a tweet the other day that really put Christopher Nolan as a filmmaker into perspective for me. It read, "Nolan shouldn't be treated as if he's Charlie Kaufman or Michael Bay, but for some reason, people treat him like both. It seems like he's living the dream, making movies that are deeper than Transformers 17, but still having fun effects and exciting set pieces."
Whoa.
That statement really spoke to me because I thought that it really encapsulated his whole MO as a filmmaker, and part of the reason why I think he started to get a little bit of backlash as of late. Nolan isn't pretentious, he's not even close to the word. Like Hitchcock, he's a populist filmmaker who believes it's possible to make massive technical marvels that are thoughtful and challenge the audience while fully immersing them in an experience that they've never felt before. And no, it's not because they both wear suits and they talk very intelligently. Nolan loves cinema, so much so that he may actually be in love with cinema. This notion becomes even more applicable upon viewing Tenet. Tenet is the prime example of a filmmaker reveling in the process of bringing to life stories akin to the ones that left such a massive imprint on him. Nolan wants to give you an experience. He wants to make sure that your time and money are both well spent. Tenet is a film that is designed with the very purpose of immersing audiences into a globe-trotting yet thought-provoking world of Nolan espionage. And trust me, as soon as the lights go down and Ludwig Göransson's pulsating score starts kicking into
Maximum overdrive. Hi-ya!
during the film's prologue, you'll know exactly why you purchased that IMAX ticket. And it doesn't stop there. The set pieces are inventive, visceral, practical, and most of all, exhilarating. It steps on the gas from the word go and rarely lets up. The firefights and explosions are like punches to the chest, and the climax especially is a non-stop edge-of-your-seat adrenaline rush. If The Dark Knight was inspired by Nolan's favorite Michael Mann crime dramas, namely Heat, and Inception, his favorite heist movies with a little bit of James Bond, and Interstellar, obviously 2001: A Space Odyssey, then Tenet is the filmmaker fully embracing and paying tribute to the espionage films he grew up loving. And that's why to understand Tenet, you have to understand Nolan's love of James Bond. Nolan is a child of the 70s, and thus Roger Moore was the Bond that he grew up with. In stark contrast to Sean Connery, Roger Moore was more playful, cheeky, and campy, whose films made for some of the most absurd and bombastic spy adventures ever put to screen. Nolan has cited The Spy Who Loved Me, Roger Moore's third outing as James Bond, as not only a massive influence on Tenet, but his love of film as a whole. And for those of you who may not be familiar with The Spy Who Loved Me, it is arguably Roger Moore's most definitive Bond film, as the super spy teams up with a Russian agent for a globe-trotting adventure to stop the reclusive megalomaniac Karl Stromberg from destroying the world in order to build a new one. It's very plot-centric with characters that are more archetypes than they are fully fleshed out human beings. We know what they know, and the events that unfold around them are viewed through the lens of our main protagonists. It's also a film, and really a genre as a whole, that engages with the global politics of the time. In the case of The Spy Who Loved Me, that would be the Cold War. If you've seen Tenet, then you'll know that structurally, these two films are very similar, and as it pertains to the plot, the broad strokes of the film follow an identical preventing World War III pattern. But even taking it a step further, his characters have so much in line with James Bond mythos. Kenneth Branagh plays the best unofficial Bond villain ever put to screen. He's a melding of Bond villains such as Auric Goldfinger and Stromberg, with similar ambitions of the latter, but yet has the selfish, possessive nature and inflated ego of the former. John David Washington is a charismatic, stoic Bond-esque hero who Nolan uses as the lens in which the audience experiences the film. Robert Pattinson's suave and charming Neil has shades of some of the best Bond allies. Elizabeth Debicki is the heart of the film, and through her traumatic past, attempts to reclaim her own narrative, a trait found amongst some of the best Bond women in the franchise. She's also the human connection to the political commentary Nolan is making, which leads me to the thematics. Now listen, there are a multitude of ways in which you can interpret Tenet, and each interpretation is valid. That's why it's film. If you want to continue on the filmmaking analogy that started with Inception, that film being the creative process, then Tenet is Nolan's comment on the history of film and the preservation of its future. However, what I personally latched onto had more in line with the espionage classics that Nolan was channeling. We as a society are at war with our future by continuing the cyclical nature of our past. We don't learn or move forward. Tenet specifically cites climate change as the primary issue, but the messaging rings true for a myriad of other topics. In the film, Nolan tasks John David Washington, aka the protagonist, with saving the world and preserving our future. The way in which John David's character is written presents him as a vessel for the audience. We are the protagonist, and it's up to us to preserve our future and fight off the evils plaguing our world today so our children can live a better one. And if you've seen the film, this of course ties back into Elizabeth Debicki's character in the relationship with her child. I won't get into spoilers, but nonetheless, that's where the true nature and heart of this film is. It's topical, comprehensible, and makes for a really damn good spy movie. As a massive fan of Nolan and a massive James Bond fan, perhaps that's precisely why Nolan's latest film was the perfect cinematic experience for me. It's high concept and challenging, sure, like any Nolan film is, and will certainly benefit from repeat viewings. However, it's also not aspiring to be much more than a sincere homage to the movies of his childhood. It borrows from Goldfinger, The Spy Who Loved Me, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, You Only Live Twice, and, probably so many others, but it does that all while doing exactly what we've come to expect from Nolan, the thinking man's blockbuster. It's spectacle with a little bit more on its mind, and honestly, as I sat there escaping for 2.5 hours, I just couldn't help but be swept up in the utter magic and mastery of the film. If you're liking everything I'm saying and you're getting any value out of this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more insight, analysis, and interviews behind your favorite movies. It doesn't help to get caught up in the minutia of what's going on. I mean, as Clemens Posey's character says, don't try to understand it, just feel it. And to me, this is Nolan blatantly telling the audience how to watch his movies. Just take in the film. It's a full-blown sensory experience. Understand the broad strokes, and then, if you so choose, dissect the pieces. But when it comes down to it, and what was really just going through my head while I was watching this movie, and why I love it so much, is that no one is doing what Christopher Nolan is doing. He's single-handedly keeping the original blockbuster alive. Not that, he's gonna use that to fuel his ego. I think we're pretty well aware that that's not the case here, but the best part is, he's just a guy who loves making movies and wants to share his love and his passion of that with the world. And so for all of this and all the reasons that I've mentioned throughout this review, analysis, mini analysis, little gushing love fest here of Tenet, I'm ultimately going to be giving the film a whopping 10 out of 10. Call me biased if you really want, but I just absolutely adored this movie. And while it's not my favorite Christopher Nolan film by any means, I think it's the one that I might end up rewatching the most just because it's an absolute blast. I mean, it's why we go to the theater. But the ultimate question here is, guys, what did you all think? I want to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. And then also be sure to let me know what your favorite Christopher Nolan film is down there as well. Let's have a great conversation. Try and keep it spoiler free if you can, but let's be very respectful because I know this one's going to be a very divisive film. So, but guys, if you haven't done so already, be sure to like FilmSpeak on Facebook, follow us on Twitter simply by searching FilmSpeak, and lastly, if you like me specifically and you like what I have to say, you can give me a follow on Twitter at Griff Schiller. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time. Take care.